Well, hello. Have a drink, he says. But I am the drink. Hey there, Rosamir. Hope you're doing well. Jinjin, thanks for the hydrate. I like my badger mug. So, hello everyone. Welcome on in. Everything should be set up. Excellent. What kind of? We just need to turn these programs on as well. And move this guy. You might need to actually, so we're gonna leave you there for now. There you go. Krita is open, and then we open up some Godot in the background as well. So today we're gonna have to then figure out, like I said, some more UI stuff. Because I guess, yeah, gonna sit down and make a proper map, like I said. Hey there, Kim Stockholm. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. Or good evening, good morning. Depending on what part of your day you're on. Alright, one brew done. Then we'll move on to the proper one, which is the coffee. And yeah, there we go. Okay, you can keep on scanning the files of Krita. We'll go into the live mode. I think I do. Oh, right, yeah. Gotta change. We got that. I need to start making more of these like predetermined placements for the camera. The easiest way to test this would be first we go, oh, here goes an entire handle there. No, goddamn you stupid OBS. Oh, and the handle grows. What if we just corner ourselves like that? Jump into this one. I guess this kind of makes sense, but it could be a little bigger. So we do like that. Because now I can go like, oh, the zoom makes sense. Yep. Okay, good. I'm glad I made that zoom scene, so then I can use that to sort of coordinate where my camera usually is. Hopefully it'll be somewhere here. I apparently need to make some more like predetermined positions and sizes for the camera for various game situations. That's something I'll do, off stream. But now though, I should be able to just push this button and voila, shit fucking works. It's amazing. Magic even. And technically it's morning, but I'm on my way home to sleep. Ah yeah, so it is a good evening / morning kind of situation. That's what I was kind of guessing. Thing is, you work nights. Whilst it is a good morning, it is also a good night. Evening kind of thing, because yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to word that. Yeah, so technically morning, circadian rhythm on the latter half. But okay, we have now achieved night people is a special kind. It's very true. I'm too old for that now. I used to be able to do night people stuff when I was in like, 20s, early 20s. Now I'm just so set in my ways. Oh, actually, no, that's not entirely true, because if I would not have the missus, which I every now and then I don't when she goes to visit family and stuff, and I'm left on my own devices, my entire circadian rhythm just shifts to way later, and then thanks to her, I need to maintain, office hours. So I remain sort of, in a quote-unquote normal circadian rhythm only thanks to, external assistance. we go. Oh. Coming some dog hair. Lovely. Oh well. There we go. So what day is it? It is the 27th. We'll do. So what are our goals? Well, the goals include getting a better menu UI system so that we can actually interact with any and all runes that we have in game. We'll currently. Okay, so what we need to do? Okay, we'll do WOM and WOM, and we'll do. Better UI for rune and circle setup, because we're gonna have to make the circles exchangeable as well, because currently we're just using one some weird ass default circle class thing, because what we need to do is turn those into resources as well, so we can have multiple different kinds. So which also means we need to be able to load those resources in from a file. Right now we're using hard-coded values, and as we all know, hard-coded values are bad, unless they're constants. But I mean, technically those are all constants, but not in the way we're doing this here, because we need to be able to create more and then load them in. And then we'll gonna have to later on figure out the naming system so we can have them in separate groups and so on, identify them by tags. We'll still need to be able to load them in. Oh, and thanks for the dark mode paint, so we don't get flashbanged. Yes, I very much enjoy it. I like the fact that in Krita, when you create a new document, you can predetermine. So what is the background color? I'm gonna just black. There you go. No one likes to get flashbanged. Dark mode everything is best. It's fun because even this interviews about people from the early age of the internet and so on, they were working on and so on, and many of them would have actually wanted to have dark mode as it exists now, but it wasn't. Why we didn't have dark mode earlier? It wasn't technically possible with the CRT screens. It wasn't just realistic to make it actually legible and make it work. That is why everything is dark on white, actually. Technical limitations of the time, which then led to being just the new design trend, which then led to eventually technology advances, and now we can do a dark screen. But I just remember, because they mentioned that because the early age of tech, it wasn't realistic. They tried to do it with using grays rather than whites, and it kind of worked, but some people really didn't like it because they then found it a little illegible, because they're still, with grays, the problem is then you still don't have enough contrast, and you need a contrast between light and dark, or dark and light, but with either the background is light or the text is light, but there needs to be enough contrast there and detail. Random details again. Random details no one asked for. Load in rune resources from file when game starts up. Same for circles and other resources. Pretty much. Any app where I can choose dark mode, I do. Same here, Game Stockholm. Every now and then you start up something and you're just absolutely horrified by the fact, why would dark mode not be the default, and what kind of monster would not put that as an option? It is just tragic. Horrifying. Now, so those are our goals. We're not gonna get them all done today. This is my firm belief. But we're gonna start with getting the loading of resources from a file into some form of data storage. And my ability to write writable in with the mouse is really hard. Oh, that's the thing. It's not. I have a Wacom pad. I am not like say Hazaza who can do crazy like really good bad art with a mouse. I am writing with a touch with a pad. Now, of course, it's an old school Wacom pad. None of these modern things that are just tablets so you can see what you're doing. No, I need to look at the screen and write. Oh, if I would be that good with a mouse, man, that'd be amazing. But no, I am not. If I write with a mouse, it'll be like this. Very different. Because I'm trying to become better at also like just generally using Wacom pad to like be able to do better digital art as well. So this is also a practice for just. Well, for one thing, getting good practice in this writing by hand, because it's something I realize I don't do much anymore. So we get a good handwriting practice, and I'll go back from the edge. So yeah, we get good handwriting practice and sort of just getting used to the graphical, the interface of Wacom pad to software. So I'd like to get better at both. I'm already. See, I wrote a line of text and it's relatively straight even compared to a while ago. Haven't seen Pirati. It's great to use the mouse like that in Paint. Oh, yeah, I have. Yeah. Yeah, but he has years of practice. He's really good with, mouse art. I am not. And I see no reason to learn that skill, seeing as I have the tools. So. Right, we got that shit done, so let's jump in here and right, so how would we I think the best way would be to have a I realized let's not do this here. Let's go back to the drawing software. True. Yeah. I mean, 'cause I believe he has mentioned that it's a skill he picked up because he when you have meetings and so on, and he's found that it's easier for him to convey what he's trying to explain by using visual aids, and then he just used Paint during meetings to like just doodle, show that this leads to here, and this is what we're doing, and this is what, and then through that. You get practice, and practice makes perfect. You can absolutely learn to do crazy good art with just a mouse. One good example would be, like I said, Hazaza, and just imagine there's a lot of people who lose their arms, and then they end up becoming masterful painters with their feet. Maybe they never had arms. So, you can learn all kinds of skills. Hey there, Dogo. Here we go. So what we're gonna need to do, I think I'm gonna have difference in terminology here, because I want managers to be the ones, because we have attack manager, player manager, enemy manager. They deal with things in scenes pretty much. And then this one will be dealing with mostly just loading resource files and organizing them. So we call it a handler. So we want a new global, we'll call it resource handler. A global, so we can request from it like, hey, I need a list of this, I need a list of that, and so on and so forth. We can then have like the UI will be requesting, hey, give me a list of these things. With these flags and so on, and we'll have some, and then we can have we'll probably have to have like identifier for individual items that will then be saving on the players. We'll see when we get there. We need to figure out how do we have a save and load system. What does resource handler do? Now we're gonna assume already that we have multiple types of resources, not just the runes. We'll have the runes, we'll have the circles, we'll have items, we'll have components for the mech, we'll have base upgrade. We'll assume there's an infinite amount to begin with. We don't know how many. That way, we're future-proofing it. Because if we design a system to handle 3 things, and then we need to add a 4th, well, now we need to redesign the entire fucking system. It's better to just assume there's going to be more. Always future-proof it that way, especially this early in the project. Now, what does a resource handler do? It will be, well, load resources from file. Will it only do it when necessary or always? Hey Reaper, how you doing? Hey, I need you to know I'm on a dangerous amount of NyQuil. I see the Hat Man, I'm gonna fight him and take his coolest hat, which is a cowboy hat that has led. Let's that say psychoanalyze. Hope you're doing well, Reap. Nice seeing you. And that sounds like a wild time, my friend. I hope you have a good time fighting the Hat Man. I hope you get the coolest hat indeed. Because who doesn't want the coolest hat? I have cool hats, but I can't wear my cool hat. I wish I could wear my cool hats on stream, but I can't with this silly headset. I've been meaning to, but I keep on forgetting about it. Like to try to find the time to find one of these like headphone sets that wraps around like behind your head. And one of these days I might get my shit together and get me some of those. Or buy a Bluetooth dongle for my PC so I can use my wireless earbuds. Even if they're mildly damaged, they'll still work. But I hope you're doing well, and if you're dangerous about a NyQuil, I do hope you end up getting some decent rest, my friend. Sleep well. No, actually, on NyQuil, you just really need to keep coming up with shit to tell you and Clay so people think I'm cool, even though I'm many mad flaws. Right, no worries. We're all flawed, man. No worries. We're all flawed. Well, let me tell you, that doesn't mean you're not cool. Coolness has nothing to do with being, a flawless example of humanity. We're all flawed in our own way. Part of the whole being alive. Being cool is just being chill, being understandable, being having compassion, and not being a doormat. That kind of like being cool is about being in balance, really. No extreme, nothing. Cool people will bend when they need to and stand up when they need to. Flawed, what? My mom says I'm perfect. And you're perfect exactly the way you are, Kim Stockholm. Flawed, warts and all, as they say. Mom, good, decompressing. I enjoy Marvel Rivals because I played it joking, playing for my cousin for 5 minutes. A lot of people, Raggy seems to also be enjoying Marvel Rivals. I do get it. It seems like a fun game. Not just got the kind of like PvP stuff that I usually enjoy. Well, that's a matter of taste now, isn't it? It's cool. We'll never stream it. It's okay to have those games. You don't want to stream, you just want to play. Load these stuff from file. The getters for those various resources. I was huge into Overwatch the first 2 years it was put. Alright, cool. Yeah. I mean, it is very much a popular type of game. And I do see the appeal. I like to play, local co-op split screen with like Medal of Honor and stuff back in the day. But that was more because I liked the whole, community vibe, doing stuff with friends at a party and so on. But I realized I do usually enjoy games with more, engineering, building, crafting, or interesting narratives. Maybe challenging to interact with chat in a shooter game. Yeah, that's also very true. Get various resources. And what else, my friends? The idea is, we'll just try to visualize this. So here's the resource handler, this box here. Right, a nice little RH. So it will, when it's activated, look into our file system. We're giving it the address for the resources folder. It will then use the load command to load in those resources into an array for storage. So now it has those. Now they're not hard-coded, so no matter how many objects we have, because then we can keep on making new resources, saving them in the file. And then, like games do, you start it up, there's a little loading screen. So now we're figuring that bit out, aren't we? Holy shit. I just realized what I'm doing. I'm a simple man. Give me abilities and lots of different ones that sometimes synergize with each other and make monkey brain go, ooh, ooh. I know, right? And that is essentially what I'm trying to build here myself. I very much enjoy that. Survival craft. Like crafting is super fun. You can be crafting things for tools. You can be crafting things like, building materials for building cool houses and bases and things. Or you could crafting with your sacks like in Noita, which is then inspiring this, where I want to just do that, but more granular, even more detailed. Craft everything. I'm not expecting this to be a financial success, but I'm hoping at least some people will enjoy it. And if I get paid even a little bit, then I can finally call myself a professional. We'll get there. So that means we now have a loading system. This will be simply the resource handler, and its only function is to load in my resource files and then hand them out on demand. So no menu needs to remember what the hell it contains. It just says, hey, yo, give me these things. And then this guy will, but yeah, there you go. Gives them out. So they will have a system for giving shit out. Yeah, because no setters, only getters. It just loads the stuff in and gives stuff on demand. And as things grow in complexity, we're gonna have to do some logic for only load some things. Only load some things when needed. So there's no point in loading in, like if we end up having like a large amount of enemies and so on, to load all of those in when we're like in a crafting scene. So when you enter a level with combat, that is when enemies get loaded in. If we check which enemies we need, then we load in the correct ones. Yeah, even better, yeah. So we will need a nice, proper, systematic naming scheme to identify everything. Enemies by type, and so on. Of course, what this will be loading in is the base resource for all of them. And then, right, and then shit. Yeah, our base class. We'll see how it goes. Some things will be predetermined like this, like the runes, but enemies more actually, because the idea is for them to be more procedurally generated. So we'll have some entities that are like most likely NPCs, something that are like hard coded to be this, like boss entities, NPCs, that kind of things will come through here. But a lot of the enemies will be created by code on the fly. So we'll still be loading in some things from here, I think. No. The code can do it itself. It just needs, we just need the address for it. This is your base sprite. Work on this one. Do modulation. Change these bits. We don't need a resource handler for that one, because this is for actual resources we've created in the editor. So these are for truly unique things. Okay, yeah. Thank you for helping me rubber duck my way through the logic of what the fuck I'm doing. Okay, go homie, I love you and you're awesome. And thank you, Reap. I love you too. You're awesome as well. Take it easy, my friend. And remember to sleep. I know it's hard. Take care of yourself. Remember to sleep. Yeah, that is also something I should do. Work on myself. I'm a good example of do what I say, not what I do. I like to think I bring something positive into any all and every interaction I take part in. If nothing else, then at least as a bad example. I've done my fair of dumb shit. Keep on doing my fair of dumb shit. Not as bad as I used to, which is nice. I have learned. Okay, so we'll start that way by first making the global itself. So we go to project settings, globals. And yeah, see, this is what I meant by the whole systematic naming. We want handlers to handle, which are just handling information in the background. Managers, like I said, are dealing with things in scenes. Like right now they're like actual global, so we can turn them into global variables. And some of these might be a good idea for me to think, like, can I like turn them off? Do they have to be global at all times? Maybe yes, maybe no. And just like I have some enums in some classes, we might be moving them from there into like a handler. We could have like just a straight up enum handler or something, which just has all of our enums for different things, and that'll also help us allow us to make changes in certain classes and make some calls to things a little bit more visually clear. So these would be the resource handler. We add, and you'll still go in the global folder because that's how you function. Resource handler, global resource handler, close. Now we're gonna close all of these. You don't need them to be open currently because we're gonna have to figure out how exactly do we load anything in. Sorry. Hey there, Mind Cozy. Hope you're doing well. And if you ask my wife, I still do dumb shit, but I'm getting slightly wiser by the years. Oh, same here. I know I do a lot of dumb shit. I will always do a lot of dumb shit because that is just the way I am. I oftentimes do dumb shit completely aware and knowing that this is in fact dumb shit, but I need to know what happens if I do this particular kind of dumb shit. Because it's the same mentality that has led me to then really love coding and crafting and building things, because I like to sometimes figure out where do things break. How far can I push this thing? Which you could then call dumb shit. But then that has always then helped me then figure out, okay, so that's how it breaks, which means our safety margin is actually here. So, I can do a lot more stuff, I can bend the metal like this when I was blacksmithing, or, machining things. I can make the machine do this or do that. Whenever something I can afford to break, I like, and replacing it is easy, which means I can't put that into afford to break, and which for code is in the perfect one because it's free. You make it do weird shit, and you find out where it breaks, and then it'll help you then visualize and figure out, I can do all kinds of stuff, can I? I can do this, I can do that. So yeah, sometimes doing the dumb shit is the best thing to do, at least in my opinion. Because, you know, if you don't try shit, you won't learn shit. How's the coding? It is going... Well, because we're actually starting the coding now. We've just been planning on the idea for today, which is we need to do a resource handler, which will load from a resources file all the resources we've been making. Because currently we've hard-coded those into the code. Now, the idea is eventually we'll have a large amount of those resources, because there'll be a large amount of like just planning to like, oh, we're now going to make different kinds of bolts and different kinds of runes for this and that. They all need to go somewhere, and we can't just... I mean, of course, we could have a giant file where they're all just manually, we put them in and we load from there, but I'd rather not. I'd rather have them all be inside a folder, and then the game loads in from there. If for nothing else, that means other people can make runes. So I'm realizing opening it up for modding in that way. So that'll be neat. Sorry. Luckily, she has the attention span of a squirrel, so I'm usually in the clear fast. Ah, that is very handy. No, we have the other way around. I am very much the squirrel in our relationship. My ADHD is strong, and her memory is infinite. Sometimes selective. No, I love her. I love her to bits, and she keeps me grounded. We're a good balance of being very like strong opposites in many ways, but we complete each other. It is a wonderful existence, and I couldn't be happier. Been together for over 10 years now. But okay, let's see here. So how do we load these things? I mean, first for one, we can start with some simple logic here. I think we have all of our globals extending node. I'm just gonna have a look see here. Yeah, because this is the problem here. These are test filtration error preloading these things, and I don't want them preloaded. I want them loaded when necessary. Currently we're gonna then preload them anyway, but through a function rather than just having them in the code. Because having this giant list of preloaded stuff, which is completely fine. Many people do things that way, and I might end up doing that anyway for animation, other reasons. But for this particular question of the resources that we can then design and create in the inspector, I don't want them separately always have to go put it in. I want them to be here, and I want the game to be able to load in certain things only when necessary. Like I was giving the example earlier, like there's no point in loading in like a big list of NPCs and like boss monsters if they're not in the scene. If we're like in a crafting scene or this, start menu, there's no point for them to be there. Enemies would be loaded in when we enter a map that actually has enemies. If we have NPCs, well, there's no point in loading them in unless they're actually involved in the scene, because memory is still finite. And I also know that yes, the AAA game is pushing for these mega hardware demanding games. Everybody's doing like the biggest thing for the heaviest machine. Everyone should have the massive mega RAM and the best GPUs, and then they're all being stolen by fucking coin miners, and now the AI boom. So I would bet that quite literally the majority of people who have computers and enjoy gaming do not have extremely powerful rigs. Good example is we were referring earlier to Thor from Pirate Software, who, thanks to his early games being made rather simply enough, got a lot of fame in Brazil. Because there's a lot of people in there as well who enjoy gaming, but might not have just the access to the most modern machines. Let alone being able to afford them, but just, the world markets are what they are. Another thing, if you want to get into game dev and you want to make money, one of the largest markets out there, if not the largest, is mobile gaming. Because smartphones are more easily accessible than computers. Consider Africa. Africa is a wonderful example of how technology can skip entire steps. We could talk about Finland as well, but our example is less sort of in your face. Because in Africa, large amount of Africa, they don't have the infrastructure to pull in phone lines. So there's no phones. They don't even have power lines. Because there's still people who live a sort of nomadic, a herding lifestyle. But you know what they can do? They can carry with them solar panels. And because they sort of skipped the whole building an infrastructure full of cables and immediately started building cell towers instead. So you got like Maasai tribesmen with smartphones doing stuff. Just like how they try to bring in mobile banking and all kind of stuff, because they certain in certain countries they came up with their own alternative currency in the form of like prepaid phone hours, because those were a thing for a while, and people realized, well, these will always have value to me and to you and to each other, and you know, corrupt officials always cause money to fluctuate. So rather than dealing with money, a lot of people started like literally doing trades in just mobile phone. They like skipped the whole central bank, and we came up with our own currency with this, because this thing has value to us. You know, the money, what do we do with this? Can I eat it? Can I do anything with this? No, because money never has any inherent value. Money is a measure of value. Using money, because what is a piece of money? It is a measurement of value. It is similar to like a meter. A meter isn't anything. It is a distance, measure of distance. Except it's pretty like predetermined. There's a prototype that exists that is very well protected, copies of it and so on. So we have all agreed this is 1 meter. Whereas money is a measurement of value, and thanks to the whole how that system works, it fluctuates with inflation and so on. And sometimes the people can go like, you know what? We're going to ignore you and do our own trade and our own thing. Look at Bitcoin or like cryptocurrency. It was for a little golden while there. It was wonderful in the sense that it sort of like sidestepped the existing financial systems. And then, of course, ended up getting more popular, more valuable. And then the traditional financial systems and that kind of thinking were like, hey, yo, can I get in on that? And, you know, things have gone the way they have. A good example there would be the NFT thing, but, you know, that's the whole thing. But the thing is, thanks to the future coming, the future array is here now, but it is unevenly distributed. It's also another quote from someone I can't remember. And it's wonderful to think that, yeah, there's places where, you know, you can have extremely sort of traditional off-grid living, but they got smartphones, you know. So they have access to the internet. So they have access to gaming. They can't lug around a freaking PC there. A laptop eats so much power and it's not that useful. But a phone can do many things, including gaming and all the other things a phone is actually handy for. And another one would be China, which has slightly different but kind of similar reasons of how the mobile access has spread further and is more reliable than their sort of like hardline networks. So again, lots of places where people have phones, but they might not have access to PCs or, you know, hardline, like wired internet, if you will. So, mobile gaming, that's where the money is. The only problem for that one, though, is because then you have a massive gatekeeper, which is the app stores. On the PC, we are blessed for, well, the foreseeable future until something changes with Valve. The problem is, I'm pretty sure Valve is thriving and doing so goddamn well because it continues to live under a benevolent dictator known as Gabe. And, well, I dread the day when he leaves the scene. And Godot compiles and deploy onto smartphones or tablets. Yes, I'm currently doing this in like the most simplest, because Godot has like the newer ones even can do even more, because I'm using 4.3. I still haven't updated it. I keep on saying I should, but I haven't got around to it. But you have like 3 modes. You have like the best graphics, which will allow you to make, you know, 3D hardcore shit. Then you have a sort of nice medium one, which, you know, it'll run faster, but it's limited in how well optimized it is then for like super high-end graphics. And then you have like the compatibility plus or whatever. It's like the simplest form, which is made for which then is optimized for being able to run on mobiles and the web. Oh yeah. They have like the I think it's called the advanced one. Then they have the mobile version, which can also run on mobiles because it is optimized to be, well, more optimized rather than trying to churn out the best graphics and whatnot. And then there's the simplest one, which is also for web, pretty much. I'm doing this in the simplest form currently because the original version, the first version of this will be going on itch.io. You know, playable on the web, and then at some point I'm going to then choose a port it into a more advanced version. Who knows? With the way I'm writing this game so currently, I could have probably turned this into a mobile game too. We'll make a mobile version. Maybe. We'll see. First, we'll make it a more traditional PC game, because that is something I can wrap my head around. Mobile is a land of dark mystery for me. Might as well try to learn it. I had a massive rant again and went through all through a freaking ad break. This is how much coding we've gotten so far. I put in like one new line. Oh god, it is what it is. Okay, we'll do a constant here, because we don't want this thing to be changing. And it is the resource folder. No. We'll use dir for because it's what is it is a directory. Resource dir can I write is address with 2 D's? Damned if I know. No recursion here, friends. Because if we do here, try it again. Why is you're not? Fair enough. Why am I not getting the preload thing? Has my left control finally broken for good? Could have. We'll test. Nope, still works. Okay, so we don't need. Let's just call it just the resource data string resource, because then we can change if the folder systems change. We just change that one point, and the logic will remain the same. Again, future proofing, because I don't know what kind of dumb shit I'm gonna end up making. Now, how do we make all this work? There will be no process, because process is things that happen every tick. Ready when it enters the scene. It's never going to end. This will never enter a scene. It's not that kind of node. We might even have to remove a node, I think. So if we click here, the nodes are Godot's base building blocks. They can be assigned as a child of another node, resulting in a true arrangement. Given node can contain any number of nodes as children with the requirement of all siblings. Direct children of a node should have unique names. A tree of nodes is called a scene. Scenes can be saved to the disk and then instantiated into other scenes. This allows for very high flexibility in the architecture and data model of the Godot project. I have noticed that, yes. It's very... I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of what the engine itself allows me to do, and it is very neat. Alright. Now here's a question, though. Search help. Global resource handler. Yeah, exactly. I just made that. I was just wondering, like, do you have any info on global scope consists in functions, a list of global scope enumerated constants and built-in functions. Is all that resides in the globals. Constants regarding error codes, key codes, property hints, etc. Singletons are also documented here, since they can be accessed from anywhere. Ooh. What's a singleton? I know there were. I know I should know this, but it just escapes me. And that's an honest question. If someone knows and has a quick explanation, reminder, what exactly it is, I'd love that. What the frickety frack? There's a time global. Class time, singleton for working with time data. This time singleton allows converting time between various formats and also getting information from the system. Class conforms with as many of the ISO 8601 standards as possible. All days follow the proleptic Gregorian calendars. As such, the day before 8/15/82 10/15 is 15/82 10/14. Not 15/82 10/04. Why would the day before 15 be 04? The year before 180, also not 1 BC, is number 0. With the year before that 2 BC being -1. Very handy. Some years skip days, because the calendar was imprecise. That is true, but that is a skip of 11 days in one single month. But that's, yeah, I know calendars are weird. And yeah, I do know about leap days, leap years, all that stuff. I was wondering, like, because I would get a single day in a certain dates, but that one having 11. I also know that the calendars have been changed many times through history, and our current one is really fucking stupid. Yeah, calendar history is full of one-off events like that. Yeah. Someone decided, like, hey, because it could be, because I do believe there's been, occasions where, someone was of the opinion that, hey, you know what, our counting is wrong. We're off by 11 days. So let's change it now. Okay? And then the king was like, sure, let's do it. And then they did it. And then, because, stuff happens. And I get it. But I wonder, wasn't it, I think there was at least one movement for adding a month, if I remember correctly. Because it's very annoying, thanks to, was it Julius Caesar, who added July and Augusty. July and August, I believe. He added those two in, because he's an asshole. And that is why October is now the 10th, and not the 8th, which the name October being the 8th would mean. Very annoying. Like December, should be the 10th. Oof. Shit made sense once upon a time. But okay, neat. That is a fun little side quest. The Romans did love their 10s. Yeah. The base 10 system is nice. I do enjoy it. A lot of math works. Yeah. And I think there's been like one proposition where I think if we like add a month, if we had 13 months or was it something, and then we could have every month be the same length, and every month would change between a Sunday and a Monday. Like there was some math for that. Like if we change our system, it could be like extra, to say autism friendly. It'll be like just so precise. The month changes when the week changes between Sunday and Monday. That's also when the month would change. Every month is the same length. Freaking wonderful. Current system having like some are longer, some are shorter. Oh, wobbly. Very annoying. And I realize I'm getting distracted again. And there's an OS. Yeah, of course there is. ThemeDB. Ooh. These are the ones I want to look at, isn't it? We want to look at the resource loader. A singleton for loading resource files. Singleton used to load resource files from the file system. Well, that is exactly what we're trying to do here, isn't it? So I accidentally found my way to what I need. Love it. It uses the many resource format loader classes registered in the engine, either built-in or from a plugin, to load files into memory and convert them to a format that can be used by the engine. Note: you have to import files into the engine first to load them using load. If you want to load images at runtime, you may use image.load. If you want to import audio files, you can use the snippet described in audio stream mp3.data. Lovely. Sadly, a solar day is not an integer divisor of a solar year. We can't escape leap days. Yeah, Yeah, because reality isn't mathematically perfect. It wobbles. So yeah, that's very true. So even if our orbits and everything are relatively perfect, they're only relatively perfect. Because there's still some wobbly happening there. Thanks to all the planets like pulling on each other and you know, there's gravity being all wobbly. You know what would be fun? Or interesting if... Okay, someone must have done this. Can someone... should be able to do the math and try to figure out what is true time? Like, we could use these seconds, but how long is an actual second? Like, devoid of all gravitational pulls. And how far away would we have to go to experience that? Because gravity is a very weak force per se, but it has a very long reach. So, I think the closest we would get to sort of unadulterated time would be like in the void between galaxies. Because the galaxy, of course, is a gravity well. It's sticking together. And if there's gravity, you are slowing down time. Because, you know, time and space are linked. It's easy to think, actually, of, like, visualize for me, because, you know, you think, well, if there's more gravity, space is thicker. So it's thicker, it's more difficult to go through, ergo, it takes more time. So that's why time changes. Good day there, Oshug. Hope you're doing well. So I've always wondered, like, how fast is, like, true time, if you would want to call it that. Like, you know, like we have a base reality. Is there a base time that is completely unadulterated by any gravity? Because we know, like, just airplane pilots are slightly older than everyone else because they've been spending so much time just further away from the ground. So they're being like traveling through the time a little faster than everyone else, especially astronauts and so on. It's neat. And I like the time dilation is one of those things. It's weird because every now and then someone will go like, anti-science. Sorry. Time dilation, that can't be real. No, there's no proof. That's just a theory. I'm like, no, it's very real. GPS is all fucked if we don't take it into account. You know, we have actual practical examples of it in our everyday lives. Because we have to take into account the fact, because the GPS system is based on clocks. You have 3 clocks orbiting the world, and they all know exactly what their time is and where they are, essentially in relation to each other. And then you just ask them, so what's your time, and where, and then you can triangulate where you are from their location and time. And because you need to know their time, you know, because of the whole triangulation system. And if you don't take into account that they're moving through time differently from you, your measurement will be off. And then you can't actually get an accurate position. And I think that's neat. So I think how the GPS satellite knows where it is because it has a clock. And it knows where it should be at this time. Because it's on a very precise, exact orbit. It remains exactly there. So it's knowing like, well, it's 3 p.m., so I'm going to be here. Yeah. You know. So they know their own time because they have atomic clocks. They know their own time. They measure that one and they know exactly where they've been put. And they have to flow with that one. No, the reality, the practicality is a bit more complex, but that is the very simplified basis of how they work. Like, how else would it know where it is? You know? It can't. It can't measure. It can't think. All it can do is just report what time it is. Funnily enough, isn't that pretty much the same system how the astrolabe works? And how we could circumnavigate the globe and like figure out our, longitude? Because if someone's wondering like why is Greenwich Mean Time 0, you know? Why is the 0 or UTC nowadays, as they call it? I like calling it Greenwich Mean Time because I like the history of it. They're both the 0 time zone goes through Greenwich, England, because that's where the first experiment was, where they built a very precise, for that time, a very precise clock. And they all agreed, this is the true time. This is time 0, and it's in Greenwich. And they maintained it too, and they took good care of that clock. They kept it at 0. And everyone then, because we were only able to then circumnavigate the globe, but we could make pretty accurate but small watches, which eventually led to pocket watches. Because everyone else, when they were heading out to sea, they came to have their clock to be triangulated with the Greenwich Mean Time clock. So they came to check, so what time is it? Now it's now, there we go. So now they're at the exact same time. Wonderful. Now I will always know what time it is in Greenwich. And you take that clock with you, you go on a boat, you head east or west. So we look at America, for example. Now, the further you go, east or west, dawn and dusk will happen at a different time compared to, Greenwich, because, the world is round and it all spins. So then they look at, when is it dawn? Now it's dawn. They look at what time is in Greenwich. Well, it's only this much in Greenwich. So that means that the difference, because I know dawn in Greenwich at this time of year will be around, 8 a.m. or something. And you've been sailing and you notice that your dawn is at 10. So, okay, we've traveled 2 hours worth to the west. And that is how you could then, using a clock and the sun, you can figure out how far you travel east or west. Because north and south is easy. You just look at the stars pretty much. Can I see the North Star? No? Okay, so because it has gone below the horizon. East and west is difficult because the planet spins. So you're going to see all of them all the time. No matter where you are, you'll see the same stars. Whereas north and south, you literally can't see the star because it's, over the horizon. And it will only be, some of them might only be, because look at this, it is how far it is from the horizon pretty much. Again, random deeds. Sorry. We're getting distracted. Totally not trying to avoid the hard work. Trust me, bro. Gotta love caffeine. So, use the many resource formatted loaders, blah, 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 blah. Online tutorials. Nah, who needs tutorials? We're gonna make shit invent the dumb way. Thread load invalid resource. Resource is invalid or has not been loaded with load threaded request. Okay, excellent. So we have pre-existing enum, so we know what kind of output we might get. So what are we gonna look here?
Sailwind is a great game that uses those mechanics for navigation.
Oh, hey there, Discount. Hope you're doing well. Sailwind, you say? Ooh, that sounds neat. There's so many neat games. Oh god, I was also suggested this freaking From the Depths, and then I look at it on Steam, and I'm like, god damn it, that looks janky as shit, but exactly the kind of stuff that'll get me, shall we say, rock my boat. Which makes more sense if you look at how that works, because it is like a voxel box building system, but you have to build pistons and things to build boats and mechs and giant guns and airships and sailboats and spaceships, and then you have a war, with other AI, or probably has a multiplayer system, but it's like RTS with base building and mobility, and also complete freedom in design of your machinery. It very much looks like a very hard, it's hard to master kind of game, hard to learn and hard to master. Because it looked like the idea was super fun, but it didn't seem like it was the most popular game. Like it didn't have that many sales, and it looked like I would guess that it suffers from the same problem that I feel Stationeers suffers from, which is the difficulty of getting into it. Hey, there's Akira. Most people nowadays cannot find where they are on a map. If there's no GPS arrow and you expect them to navigate the sea with a clock and protractor, yeah. I think most people can't find where they are on the map for the simple reason of they never had to. You can't expect people to gain skills, just suck them in from the ether themselves. They're used to using a map with a GPS navigator. Then they have never needed to or had to learn how to read a map sort of manually, and that happens. I'm keen to a no map a VS run ago. Ooh, yeah, same one, same thing here with Discount. I'm also thinking about that one, but that one seems tricky because as far as I know, there's stellar navigation doesn't really work in VS currently, if I understood it correctly from perk. Though you can find north with moss on trees. The north side of a tree will always have the most moss. So mossy trees can be used to find north at least. But other than that, because perk has been doing those a few times, Percus. And yeah, I think he has commented on the fact that some of them can be a bit tricky. And I think, was it wind usually always in animations flows in like to the west or something. There's a few of those little details. It would be nice if you had to draw your own map. Yeah. That could be fun indeed. I know that chisel tools always have the same orientation. Use that too? Yeah, okay, that's a good point, Mind Cozy. But that feels like using game mechanics. It's a bit like in how people used to navigate to find bosses in no map Valheim runs. You know, you find the Vegivis that it shows you a direction. Using that direction, you place the thing on the ground, which points in that direction, and then you don't build it, because next time you try to build it, it will remember its previous orientation. So that kind of works, but it's one of those things where you kind of end up using a unintended mechanic to navigate, and it works. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Thank you. Do you know how to determine south in nature? Just look how its solar panels are oriented. When you find a wild solar panel, you can use that to navigate, as long as it's not like one that follows the sun too much. But yeah, solar panels, nature's miracle. Amazing. Love it. Oh yeah, so let's see here. What the freaking frack was I doing? Oh yeah, okay, what the heck does get dependencies? Returns the dependencies for the resource at the given path. Note, the dependencies are returned with slices separated by comma, or colon. You can use string.getSliced to get their components. This is not something we're dealing with currently. But good to know it exists. So these two give us a resource, packed string array. Get recognized the extensions for it. And these sound more like, if we have more plugins and things, and then they have their own dependencies. We're not dealing with that right now, so yeah, get resource UID. Sorry. Okay, so this could be handy for like save load systems, because if we want to like save a list of resources, so rather than saving the entire resource file in the save folder, we just save the IDs for these are the things the player has in their inventory, for example. Because whatever is unlocked, though, we can just use flags for that instead. Much easier. True. I know there's a mod that adds compasses to determine heading, sextants to let you see your coordinates, and a craftable map. You need each item on you to use the mechanic. Yeah, that's true, Mind Cozy. I did have heard about that. When you're napping. Oh, in that way, chiseled. Oh, wait, Mind Cozy. Are you saying that every time I put down I want to nap a knife, it will always... The minigame always points in the same direction? I guess it would, wouldn't it? Yeah. I never thought about that. I mean, because they could make it follow your own orientation, but I think it is easier. What's easier for the devs is, okay, it exists and it has like the default orientation, so points like east, north, whatever. Yeah, the blade always points west. Yeah, so the default orientation is west. Cool. Thank you, Mind Cozy. I'm gonna have to remember that one. So, moss on a tree. Like the tree will have moss on all sides, but usually the one that has the most, usually like 3. Because if you have like on the south side one moss, east west has 2, and then north has like 3 or 4. So the most moss on a tree tells you where it's north, and apparently napping a blade tells you where it's west. Now with those 2 tricks, so now you have 2 tricks, which will help you get your orientation. And that alone will help you quite a lot. Man. Now I'm getting all excited about, maybe I should do Vintage Story. Oh. I'm meaning to return to the freaking casual story, finish my buildings there. I should do it before the server gets goes down. A lot of people still playing there, so he's not in any risk of going down. But I haven't been there for a while. I think all my food will have rotted away. So a lot of compost. The pigs are still there, so I'm okay for food, and my field should be filled full of, if nothing else, flax. So, okay, what the frick the frack am I doing here? Right, get resources. Has cached. Returns whether a cached resource is available for the given path. Okay, this sounds like this is when we get to the whole save load complications. Right now, I just want to have the resources folder to get loaded. So it'll be either, so one of these is my guess. Load threaded get. Many resource format loader classes registered in the engine built in or from a plugin to load files. So okay, this one is does a lot of shit like for me. Okay. Hello there, Buffalo Buggers. Hope you're doing well. Nice seeing you around, friendo. Right. Coffee's gone. Wonderful. Then we'll have a caffeinated tea as well. Okay, I'm glad I accepted early on that we're not going to get our daily goals done today because there's a lot of learning that needs to be done in order to figure out how does this actually work. So loads a resource at the given path, caching the result for further access. What does that mean in this instance? Okay. The registered resource format loaders are queried sequentially to find the first one which can handle the file's extension. Okay. And then attempt loading. If loading fails, the remaining resource format loaders are also attempted. An optional type hint can be used to further specify the resource type that should be handled by the resource format loader. Anything that inherits from resource can be used as a type hint. For example, image. Okay, the cache mode property defines whether and so we can give it a type hint so it knows exactly what it's looking for, but we're gonna just give it a string, I think. We're gonna check what kind of cache modes we have here. What are trying to do? We're just gonna, because I have my resources in a sort of resource file for the runes, and I want to change my sort of crafting menu thing. Rather, now I'm just being like hard coding in values, preloading all the existing runes into a list. I would rather it build a list sort of out of stuff it can find in a resource folder. And so I'm trying to like just go through here and figure out the logic for it. Now, yes, I do know we're gonna be like just pretty much looping, like, here's the address, load all these shit. Use the load one. But I'm also trying to like figure out how does the engine do it? What are the things happening? Like, I wasn't aware of the cache mode thing. Because because I want to be able to like make more and more resources eventually, and then we'll have different kinds of resources, and then depending on the scene that we're dealing with, we'll want to load in only relevant resources. Like, there's no point in having, say, all of our like enemies, any possible enemies, maybe NPCs loaded in on where we have the main menu or crafting or the other place, and enemies would be only be loaded in where we're in a scene that actually has enemies. So building that kind of logic here, and again trying to make it as modular as possible so we can then keep on making changes in our resource logic and naming systems in the future and have this shit still work. So type hint. The cache mode property defines whether and how the cache should be used or updated when loading the resource. See cache mode for details. Yes, that's the plan here. And returns an empty resource if no resource format loader could handle the file, and prints an error if no file is found at the specified path. GDScript has a simplified GDScript.load built-in method which can be used in most situations, leaving the use of resource loader for more advanced scenarios. Now, so this one will most likely just get our shit to work. because we're using like resource as is like we built here, so this one should most definitely be able to handle whatever we just made. Note, if editor export convert text resource to binary is true, GDScript load will not be able to read converted files in an exported project. If you rely on runtime loading of files present within the PCK, set editor export convert text to reasonably binary files to false. Note, relative path will be prefixed with res before loading to avoid unexpected results. Make sure your paths are absolute. Aha. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can make that. Data-driven design. Yeah. I mean, you want to make it modular, because I'm not sure what all we need, but I know we need these. And I want there to be a separate folder for a rune, separate folder for these circles. There's going to be items. There's going to be, NPC information, that kind of shit. So, and I don't want them all to be like just in this one giant file that I just always have to freaking hard code and preload them into. I want to be able to design those, put them in their own folders, make changes in those, and have everything still work. Okay, so we're gonna make sure so we're gonna want to use absolute paths rather than the relative ones. And we might not want to use this one because runtime loading of files present within the PCK. Because we might want to open it up for, editing, pretty much. Kind of modding, people can make their own runes, that kind of shit could be funny. This way we don't have to make too many changes. So then if we don't use the GDScript load, okay, first we'll look at the cache mode information here. Cache mode, ignore and reuse. Neither the main resource, the one requested to be loaded, nor any sub-resources are retrieved from the cache, nor stored into it. Dependencies, external resources, are loaded with cache mode reuse. The main resource, the one requested to be loaded, its sub-resources, its dependencies, external resources, are retrieved from cache if present, instead of loaded. Those not cached are loaded and then stored into the cache. Same rules are propagated recursively down the tree of dependencies, external resources. So that would make sense, because then we can have one big load and then add shit into the cache, and then the reuse one will be able to, okay. Yeah, makes sense. Like cache mode reuse, but cache is checked for the main resource, the one requested to be loaded, as well for each sub-resources, those already in the cache. Those loaded and cache types match will have their data refreshed from storage into the already existing instances. Otherwise, they're recreated as completely new objects. Okay, so this one would be handy if we make changes to the resources. But we want a way to reset them. Oh, we're not going to be changing, we're going to make anything. The idea is here, these will be hard, unchangeable, once, like, by the game itself. Ignore deep, replace deep. Alright, cool. So cache mode reuse being the one, the default is A-OK. Now this one will go through all possible resource format loaders, whereas this one, okay, retains a resource from the file system located at the absolute path, resource load path string, okay. Unless already referenced elsewhere, such as in another script or in the scene. Resources loaded from disk on a function call, which might cause slight delay, especially when loading large scenes. To avoid unnecessary delays when loading something multiple times, either store the resource in a variable or use preload. This method is equivalent to using resource loader.load with resource loader cache mode reuse. A resource path can be obtained by right-clicking on a resource in the file system dock, choosing copy path, or by dragging the file system dock in the current script. Relative paths are not relative to the script calling this method. Instead, it is prefixed with res. Loading from relative paths might not work as expected. Simplified version of resource load, which can be used for more advanced scenarios. Note: Files have to be imported into the engine first to load them using this function. If you want to load images at runtime, you may use image.load with audio files. Okay, how was this then different from preload? Returns a resource from the file system located at its path. During runtime, the resource is loaded when the script is being parsed. This function effectively acts as a reference to that resource. Note that this function requires path to be a constant string. If you want to load the resource from dynamic/variable path, use load. Okay, resource paths can be obtained by right-clicking. And preload is a keyword, not a function, so you cannot access it as a callable. Okay, so we don't want to use a preload here, I guess. Okay, the instance of a scene, diamond, preload the scene and instantiate. Okay. Yeah, that's not what we want. I think what I do want to do is use resource loader.load. On account of the whole cache mode. Because the normal one did not mention the cache mode at all. So, let's try this. So if we from here go to the resource handler, we right click on resources, copy absolute path, paste it there. Wait, no. So that's we can't use an absolute path. Unless we do it okay, so how would we do? Because we can't use an absolute path because, well, shit changes. Other computers would be running this eventually. So I guess we could do it, but if we do it like ... so we go one step back, because you're in a folder for resources. You went one step back, we'll be in inside here. And this, okay, so this one should actually just still work. You know what? It's fine. Don't worry about it. So, then, so far I've been keeping them in array, so I guess we could do it again. Or, okay, let's try here. So the power rune. No, we'll do it like that. Gosh darn, there we go. So it's rune array power. Projection. Filter. They're all in array. But there's no point in doing anything more. Then we'll have a function, and that function is we'll call this one just load in runes with no inputs and outputs. And then there is a way to do this, but I can't remember what it is, so we'll open this. God damn you stupid fuck. Why can't your guides be fucking text? Like, now I'm gonna download this entire thing and start like, you can write it. You can write it down. You bastard. Non-reader files, plain text can be used to use file access for those files instead. User savegame.dat file access rights. Yeah, cool. Yeah. God damn it. There you go. Godot, open. Dead. Godot, did access. That's one. Provides a method for managing directories and their content. Flask is used to manage directories and their content even outside the project folder. Data access can't be instantiated directly. Instead, it's created with a static method that takes a path for which it will be opened. Most of the methods have a static alternative that can be used without creating a data access. Static methods can only support absolute path, including res and user. I guess we're gonna do res. Okay, absolute including res. Good to know. Oh, so res thing is actually absolute. Good to know. Var dir data access open, user dir levels, dir make dir stack dir access, make dir absolutes. Accessing projects. Res structures once exported may have behave unexpectedly as some files are converted to engine-specific formats and the original source files may not be present. Unexpected peak the package. This use resource loader instead of file access. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do here. Func dir contents path var dir access open path if dir list dir begin var file name equals dir get next. While file name is not empty if dir dot current is dir print found directory plus file name, else print find file, found file plus file name equals dir dot get next. Else prints an error occurred when trying to access the path. Keep in mind that file names may change or be remapped after export. If you want to see the actual resource file list as it appears in the editor, use resource loader. Okay. We're inside resource loader. Just get dependencies. And Get access. There we go. I'm gonna copy that piece of code from there. Jump into my resource handler here. Jump down. Do milk. Hey there, Brewman Sniffer. I hope you're doing well. Ain't got no milk. All I got is tea, man. All I got is tea. Your access. No. Safe directory. This just absolute. You know what? Might as well copy that shit stuff in there. And why are you not using the 4.6 version? Because I'm too lazy. I just haven't gotten around to updating it. So 4.3 for now. Loading you to the bar directory text resource dir if directory. Okay, it initializes the stream used to list all files and directories using the get next function, closing the opened stream if needed. Once the stream has been processed, it should typically be closed with list dir end. Affected by include hitting and include navigational. The order of files and directories returned by this method is not deterministic and can vary between operating systems. If you want a list of all folders sorted alphabetically, use get files or get directories. Cool. So, let's begin. Now here's a question. I think you still kind of do, so let's just do that. Right, so it works. I'll even add the error message here. An error occurred when trying to load in resources. Alright, so we got the thing. Found a directory, found file. Now we found the file. And we know the file name. Apparently they're all starting with test. Now what kind of... Oh. Also, output data access. Let's do this properly. Data access. File name is a string. Good. Sucks I can't find Godot streamers who do 3D and root motion. I'm having issues, and forums are too slow to respond. And I'm out of ideas of how to resolve my issue where the root motion rotation rotates wrong. Says Rootman Sniffer of the YouTube side. Yeah. Sorry, mate. I wish I could help you. But yeah, that is outside of my list of skills and not something I'm working on currently. But it does sound tricky. Oh, but here's a question. Did we have good old string compare? Kinda. Which is true if the string contains what? In GDScript, this corresponds to the in operator. Print node dot contains de prints true. Print team contains I prints false. Print I in team prints false. Okay, so we can do if something in there do stuff. But for clarity, we're gonna do contains. So here we add if file name dot contains possibly sounds like a gimbal lock issue, says Mind Cozy. Yeah. Well, I don't know what all the issues might be. Root motions, I'm having issues, and forms are too slow. Yeah. Are you using 3D or 4D rotations? Are you doing things with quaternions? Or just the classic XYZ? It's not a gimbal lock. The quaternion that Godot root motion rotation gives rotates around wrong axis, it seems. In editor animation preview, it looks correct. Ah! Yeah. If it's quaternions, then there will be no gimbal lock. Alright, let's see. I don't want to change these things in too many places, so we can add some more const here. Const. Manually correcting quaternion messes up everything else. Oh yeah, manually correcting a quaternion can get very tricky. You don't want to mess around too much with the 4D animation. Trust the mathematicians, they did it. But I don't know, maybe something else is at fault. Yeah, okay, so you mentioned there that it's not a gimbal, so the quaternion that Godot root motion rotation gives rotates around wrong axis. So are you sure you're giving it the correct axis, or so which one of you is confused? Which axis is the correct one? Are you telling it to do X and it is doing X, but the original rotation is actually different from what you expected? Or is there at some other point during the logic flow, do you switch axes somehow? Because that sounds, if the issue is if it keeps on spinning around the wrong axis, then for whatever reason, the function that is doing the rotation disagrees with you around which axis should be rotating. So, why? It's hard to say. Okay, resource dir is this one. The root motion rotation is supposed to get from the animation root bone itself. I mean, should, but then again, there's so many things that one can easily get a little confused about. I've noticed that Godot provides function to get that rotation. Yeah, so is the bone confused about which way it's oriented. I mean, I don't know. Because obviously at some point there's a disagreement about which axis is what. So it's hard, so it'll be one of those things you have to like just walk through the steps and figure out maybe there is a sub form of your the function you're using that does a thing. In the editor it looks correct. Yeah. Yeah, so either it's a bug, or if it works in the editor, everything looks correct, but then in game it's not correct. That would tell me, yeah, then the problem should surely be somewhere in the code that you're using, and there's a disagreement on which axis should be the focus, and maybe there's a more advanced, complex version of the function you're using, which you can, or like a flag to specify something. Because sometimes those sort of secret default values can mess you up. It's hard to say. What was I doing? Oh, right. We'll do power identifier of type string equals power source. Filtration. And you are just projection. Now, if file name dot contains power identifier, I want you to resource loader dot load file name, all the other things. Now there's a power, so they will do root array power dot append that guy. I'm doing elif equals filter identifier would be that. Hey, it worked. Kinda. I didn't actually. I don't like your vocals, mate. Tickles my brain wrong. And then filter identifier goes to projection identifier So now, if, depending on the file name, if file name dot contains power identifier, we load it into our power array. If it contains filter identifier, goes into filter array. If contains projection identifier, goes in there. And we'll have a print statement of added to power a don't need to stringify that shit because it is a string. filter array. Projection array. Else. Print. Invalid file for root arrays. File name. Comment that shit out. We save. We F6 in and we see no explosions. 33 debugs added to power array, test power source, projection, and filter. Get open file, rest, test, animation, error, trace. Failed loading resource. Make sure resources have been imported by opening the project in the editor at least once. Cannot. Okay. Why? I'm probably using the wrong freaking. Okay. Failed risk of resource, be it a TCN or SCN file, image script. Here are some resource examples: texture, script, mesh, animation, audio stream, font, translation. I don't give a flying bullshit. Save resource taking externals to a scene saved on the disk as individual files built in saved inside the TSCN or CSCN. They're attached to more specific. Here's texture 2D and sprite 2D nude. Neat. Load the resource when it reads this very line. Packed scenes. Scenes are also resources, but as catch scenes have saved the disk of resources type backed scene. This scene is backed inside a resource. Create your own resource, like in object Godot, you can also create resources. Script inherit the ability to freely translate between object property and serialized text byte data. They also inherit the reference counting memory management from the ref counted type. It comes with many distinct advantages over alternative data structures, blah 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 blah. Can define resources, auto serialization, spectral renders edits. Create new resource object in the inspector. This can be used to derive resources so long as your script is sending the script properties in the inspector to your script. Save icon top the inspector, save as, save script language, support script classes, and streamlines process. Stats resource if stats health. Resource scripts are similar to Unity, a scriptable object. The inspector provides built-in support custom resource design though. Users can even design their own control-based tool scripts and combine them with the editor plugin, create blah blah blah. Blah blah blah. Instead of inlining the dictionary values, one could also alternatively import a table of values from a spreadsheet and generate these key value pairs, design a visualization within the editor. Where the resource file instructions will store the path of the script they use in the file. When loaded, they will fetch and load this script as an extension of their type. This means that trying to assign an inner class of a script I using a class here would introduce work Godot will not utilize the custom properties on the script inner class properly. In the example below, Godot would load the node script. Data doesn't extend a resource, and then determine that the script failed to load for the resource object since the types are incompatible. Another word of warning, write how to use resource to your line storing path of script use. If you haven't persisted a resource file system such as using grid path, the existing persisted data will be corrupt. So if you intend to refactor your custom resource into new folder, such as moving a script from res scripts user profile to res data user profile, any instances of the user profile that have been saved to the disk will no longer be able to load. If in development and have not shipped a version of your project yet, you can delete the user data of the corrupt persistent resource by navigating project user data folder and deleting the impact files. You can also fix this in the script of a custom resource. I used in a tool and couldn't figure out why the getter setter method for these properties weren't triggering. Simply adding add tool to the custom resource script fixed the errors. That's an app with fluffy buttocks. Nice little repo cat. So I'm just gonna now add export. We've got add export. So when I try to resource saver save my resource with plugin, the member variables became empty. What codes in for your resource section? I'm curious if it's completely reason why stats label type resource and then the bot stats. Alright, so why am I getting these? Cannot open file, res, test, filtration, address. Okay, so if we remove that shit, and we just use load, and into you, okay, first we do one change, we save, and we launch it again. So now the array power cannot load filtration or power source. Save again. Those 30 angry messages, now it's 33. So we change that. What exactly disappeared here then? Let's see, filtration error, filtration error, filtration error. That's 3. still try to load all of them because they're essentially same ones. I'm gonna comment that shit out. See the changes. So now there's only one of those. And now we get nine errors for 3 resources. These 3. Cannot open file power source trace. Make sure you import it by opening the project in the editor at least once. Error loading resource trace power source trace. Cannot open, error loading, and failed loading. Right. Now we use just load. We have 6 enter here. Now load 96. So now we cannot open file res and failed loading resource. And then we try preload, which is the kind of shit that works in other places. Preloaded path must be a constant string. Okay. I feel like I'm doing something like super simple, but so very, very wrong. What do you consider an image here? Native image data type contains image data converted into image texture. Yeah, so these are, literally images. Now you have a problem with this resource. So if I look at my rune power source, extends rune base extends resource. Like, feels stupid, but it might work. I've seen them have first have a class name, then the extend. So we have the extend first, then the class name. Do we get the same or different errors? Still 6 errors. All I'm saying, resource handler, load in runes, cannot open the file, res, test, power source. Open file, fail loading resource. Make sure the resource has been imported by opening the project in the editor at least once. Like this. There it is. Yeah. That achieved now. Good to know. So it's not anything quite that stupid. Condition found is true. Turning ref, resource, source, core IO, resource loader, load, stack, trace, resource, handler, GD26, load in runes. So it is ready. Jumps into load in runes. Number 26. A resource loader. Turns resource loaded by load thread request. This call before the loading thread is done. Load thread gets status is not thread loaded. Calling thread will be loaded. Resource has finished loading. However, it's recommended to use load threaded get status know when the load has actually completed. Okay. Godot can't load .trs files. Then resource class name RHO, blah blah. So yeah, city class RHO. Trying to get a resource file to hold information multiple scenes, but always get error in construction DDS script instance trying to load it. I get through for hours without making progress from distance with a fundamental problem in my understanding of how to use resources. They were I'm going to try to run this, but const city class preload. A fundamental issue understanding the resource. As far as I can tell, the resource loading is incompatible with classes that include the underscore init function, which I'm hoping is wrong, and I just don't know how to implement them to be compatible with each other. Anyone cares about seeing the code changes? Wait, for real? I do believe I might have some inits there. At risk of actually silly questions, are you missing the resource components in the path? Hey, Elliptus? No, nothing silly, and I have no idea. Let's see here. We do the resource handler here. We have res resources is the folder which has the resources. I'm using dir access to open the resource directory. We're using just a identifier string here to make sure does the name have power source filtration or projection in it to determine in which array I want the resource object to exist. So then we use the looping logic here, where if directory, we list the begin. So yeah, we're looping through the directory goes just fine. We're printing out their names just fine. Add it to power array, so detection of the names, a-okay. By the time we get here to rune array power.append resource loader.load file name. Go up here. And the file name is test power source. Oh! It wouldn't have to be anything like as stupid as this, would it? Thank you. You led me... I don't know if this was what you were trying to say, but you led me to the correct path, yes. The directory plus the file name. There we go. I was trying to load in file names, but I forgot to give because he wants the absolute address. There we go. Thank you, Elliptus, over on the YouTube side. You saved my bacon. I was about to go down a whole different path. Ooh. Handy. God, no, not the... There we go. Control V, please. There we go. Same one there. So resource directory plus the file name, because this is the directory we're looking in. Okay, this is also then handy. I'm just gonna need to remember to... Okay, we have a dir access object here. Can we make this more malleable? So the dir access, do you know what your name is? Here we go. Include hitting navigational errors, change data, copy, get create link, current is data exists, create data, yes, file exists, cool. Get current data resumes absolute path for a currently open directory. Excellent. So we can use get current data rather than giving the constant there. So from resource data, we change this to directory dot get current data. I do believe get current directory, read the absolute path, the current open directory. Wonderful, because then we can do the same loop with, we can just open a different directory and the same code should work. Wonderful, because I want to use the calling on the constant pretty much only in a single point, and that's where we're opening the directory, then be able to loop through this shit no matter what. Can you do file name equals data plus name at the top? File name string equals directory get next. I guess we could also then do after this one. Oh no, because we're doing get next in 2 places. We're doing it here and here. So in both cases, well, I guess inside the while loop, because first we want to know, is there a file here? So we check is, so if we enter here, that means we actually have found a file. Then we could almost instantly, I guess, do file name equals directory get current directory plus file name. So this way, because every time we enter this while loop, we will have just a name of an actual file from the list we got here. A string of the actual file. Does the actual file exist? If yes, then we not append but prepend it here with the address. Yeah, thank you. That shit should work. We'll save and F6, and do we get any angry messages in the debugger? Yes, we did. Very many so. Cannot open file. Resource test power source 100 trace. Ooh, okay. Okay, because we don't get the final slash, so we do there. No. There we go. While loop. File name equals directory get create directory plus / then file name. We try that again. F6. And I realized you guys can't see it, because I'm standing here, so debugger isn't saying anything. It is happy. See, nothing there in the list. Worked. Wonderful. Because then we don't have to repeat ourselves. Thank you very much, Elliptus0. You saved my bacon again. Then to double check. No, so yeah, because this is the first time I'm doing anything like this in Godot, so that was very good advice. No debugger, angries, and this has been our current menu for changing our the runes in question for the attacks, and currently we haven't a 4th rune we can't see because I've been doing all this testing via code. So what I want to do now is be able to make more runes as we progress, and then be able to have all of those automatically loaded into a sort of handler, so I don't always have to preload them into consts here, but we can just load them into there, and then from these arrays we can request them as needed, and then eventually we'll add more flags and stuff so we can detect, like, do we need this now, yes or no, or later. So shit works. Oh, okay. So we can now successfully load our list of runes in here, which are working perfectly. We have if directory.current is directory, then we find them have file directory. Okay, we can leave that there, because then that'll function as a nice little debuggy thing. I'm gonna comment out these prints, but I'm not gonna delete them just yet. We'll have the else here, invalid file for rune array and plus file name. And we save. So then the question is, okay, we don't have it yet. So where do we do this? Currently that thing says load in runes, so we should in fact not be taking in the resource directory, because we're gonna have to do some nesting. Inside resources, we're gonna have to have one folder for the runes, one folder for circles, one for the other. So loading runes as is works just fine. Though we're probably going to want to then change because right now it just uses the constant for where all of our resources are. So we would in fact make a different one, func, called load in resources. And this one calls in, we do var direct, you know, we're just gonna copy paste this. Copy paste. And U2. So now we have the file name, and now we want to then detect whiles. And we'll have this one here to help us debug this shit. Because now I want to then have the separate directories for the different kind of runes, the different kind of things. But currently we only have one, so we're gonna have to make other things, but we're just gonna test it by just identifying a single kind of directory, which would be rune resources. So we'll do resource dir and const or rune underscore dir is a string of type, what are we going to call it? Create new folder, and it shall be called rune underscore, no underscores here, and resources. And we'll say okay. And then we'll wait for this thing to get it done. Shit done. String is rune resources. If I do this here, then you get a front. So the base data directory, then the other directories, because this way I want to just be able to add more directories, and rather than just like we might end up changing current logic, but I just want to mess around with this, so we make a thing where it loops like I don't know how many directories there are, so as long as we have the correct name for them, I'll look into those. But of course we could just have, like as you saw there, we could just have the rune DRB, just have the actual freaking direct address to that one, and we do loading runes, and this one just goes, you know, with rune dir, and it'll just work just fine. That's kind of like looking forward to messing around with this one, but you know what? Now that I explained that, I find myself being a little silly. So we're just gonna do that, and we're gonna change you from resource dir to being rune dir. So now loaded resources, we in here just call in loading runes, and rather than deleting all this, we're gonna just comment that one out so I can have a look at that at a later point in time. Because again, I like trying to design things to be modular and reactive and so on. So we can just add in more folders. As long as we just give them their names there, it'll be able to flow. We change the name of these folders in a single place, then the logic should still flow. Resources. There we go. Load in resources, which currently does load in runes. They will have a separate variable here for our circle array. For now. We'll figure that shit out. Now, then we'll look at our things here under this one has filter rule. This is summon from player manager filter rune lists because it is hard coded into there. So now populate lists. Ready, populate list. Okay, but you do when you actually enter the scene, so I think the globals get activated before you, so we should be able to, hopefully, do this then. So if I comment the old value out, and now filter rune list is my resource handler dot rune array filter. We comment that one out. We also do here a resource handler rune array power. And I might as well do a variable here for a projection list equals resource handler rune array projection. Now in our because here we're doing player manager. We grab it from there because why not? Yeah, I know I'm breaking the whole naming conventions. Those were named wrong anyway, but this entire piece of the UIs need to be was one of the things we were supposed to rebuild today. Or rune in there. Save these, and we see. Do we get a crash? Nope. But yeah, that one works because it's been hard coded. Interesting. Now level, crafting menu, panel, body container, virtual box, rune inventory. So that's all not working. So we were using.
Hey, bud. Another lurk day for me.
Hey there, Douglas. Hope you're doing well, and thank you for the lurk. No worries. So sorry. No worries. Nice hearing from you, and I hope you have a love. That seemed ironic. It wasn't. Hey, no, it didn't seem like ironic at all. I know you're having a busy time. I appreciate the lurks, my friend. Take it easy, and I hope your day goes well. So look at resource handler here. And rune array power, they're all array types. Okay, so all of that is 0. Fucking amazing. So, we stop. Resource handler, calling and loading resources, calls and loading runes. Rune array power.pen resource loader load file name. You're not getting activated at all. Underscore ready, loading resources. Function loading resource calls and loading runes. Loading runes does this with the rune directory. Makes sense. It's not loading in the runes from the directory because the directory is empty. I mean, how is this not working? That's why. Yeah, I have over water with these, with work and home stuff, so I'm kind of overloaded these days. Yeah, Makes sense. Can't type, so no worries, my friend. Take it easy. And thank you for the lurks. I really do appreciate those. They do help. So I'm going to move those inside the folder. And we'll wait for that thing to finish scanning the files. There we go. And then we try again. So do we crash now? Yes. Almost better. Boom. Parse error for all those preloads. Of course. Yeah, none of you make sense anymore. So... because the hard-coded values are used elsewhere, so we're still gonna have to do all that because this whole logic needs to fucking change. And we'll get there. We do F8 to stop the failed simulation, there's F6 to simulate again. Next thing crash. These we're also using and this is why I want to get rid of this whole nonsense and have one resource handler deal with all of that. Anywhere else? Motherfucker. Boom. It works. Data. Alright, now so I know. And it works. Wonderful. So this means now we can just throw in more resources in here. They'll load in normally and we can just request those. So right now we're also getting them by just saying, you know, this equals this array. But we don't need to do this at all because we can, instead of root for rune and filter rune list, we can for rune in that one. Even better though, we might... No, these are global, so we can... Yeah, that'll work. And I'm happy. Thank you, Elliptus. Over there on the YouTube side. Nice. Yeah, and then I like the loading resources because then it's one function we call, and that one then for first load in runes, and then we need to make a runic circle actual resource object, so that we can load that one in as well. So that way, so on our path to trying to get a functional UI for the menu crafting that'll look, a bit better than the nonsense we right now have, we're gonna have to then be able to load in the circles themselves. So I'm just, yeah, look at that. Gotta love it when shit actually works. So if we look at our today's goals, what do we have? Loaded resources from file. Yes. Get it for various resources. I mean, this would be maybe for once we have more resources, because we're gonna then want to be able to identify, but that is when the complexity grows. The core of it now being just being able to load the things from the file, put them in the correct arrays as they are now, works. Which means, yeah, one problem solved. So these are the things. Oh wait, no, the goals were in the previous one, so we're gonna do that. So better UI for rune and circle setup, did not get that one done. Load in rune resources from file when game starts up is yes. Save a circle and other resources. We did not make. Technically, we have the logic for it now, so we're just gonna kind of copy paste that current loading array. I was thinking like, well, how many of those variable things inside our logic there can we make variable? But considering we could actually make that a different kind of loop now, can't we? Because if we look here, because here we're doing an if, elif, else. So we could have a simple if file type name contains target, then we'll have, a target array append kind of thing. That would mean we'd have target values for if we want to make a reusable we call it our freaking omniloader thing, we'd need we call it a target directory. We would need target file name, target array. Because we need the identifier, we need in what directory and we're not into what array. So we could call this load into array. Then we can call the same one multiple times. We just give it the target thing, because then we can have the same one in the sort of the design. What's the design pattern? With the logic of do not repeat yourself. So rather than building like 3 separate versions of this, or doing one for the runes, one for the circles, one for something else, because this one doesn't really care what is loading. It just only knows we have a target directory, target file name, and array. So we keep on calling the same thing, which is different targets. Oh shit, now what do you want to do with this? Alright, now we go to the toilet soon, but first let's see if we can make a version of this one. Now keep the old one, because I have in the past started making like interesting changes to an existing like function, and then ended up completely destroying it and being like having difficulty getting back to where it was. I've learned my lesson. So load into array. Load into array. Call that one. Then we'll have a target okay, that'll have to be a snake case. So target directory, this tir, which would be a string. Then would have a target underscore actually what we need is not a file name, but we target file underscore ID of type string, and then target underscore array of type array. I sometimes find it helps me to write what I want to call site to look like first. Yeah. Excellent. It helps me. I draw things as you saw, because I use Create to do my documentation and my planning as I'm working this thing. So helping me, let's just draw logic lines. What does where, from where, what happens, how, does it need getters and setters? No, because nothing going to set anything inside our resource handler except itself calling from an actual folder, and it'll only be giving stuff out. No external part in the game will ever be editing anything in here right now, except maybe when we start figuring out how to save shit. Loading the array, power folder, power array. Yeah. Exactly, Elliptus, over on the YouTube side. Was essentially what I did here. We call it load into array, and what do I need, what kind of things we need: a target directory, file name, and target array. So here we have the target stuff. Now variable directory, did access open, and this would be then target did. target file ID would be identifier, which means these ellipses go away, and copy target array would be that one. So var directory dir_access open target directory. If directory list at begin, file name string get next. If it's empty, if it's not empty, do the next step, which is file name equals directory get current dir plus / plus file name. Works the same. If directory is current directory, is an actual directory, print found directory file name. What? Shouldn't this be file name? Oh no, because we go and get next, so it's a pointer on. Okay, no. Okay, I'm back on track. So then the directory would know where its pointer is. If its pointer is on a, it tells us is this file with this name, is it a directory? Okay, yeah. Else, if file name contains target file ID, target array append resource load folder and the file name. Invalid file for array. So invalid for array, which would be then plus target array. Sorry. Stringify that shit. Plus space file name extra space at a pipe. So then we'd go, instead of loading runes, we would load into array. First, the target directory would be for here, the rune directory, followed by target file ID, which would be then the power identifier, followed by rune array power. And it would be power filter and projection identifier. Filter projection. Then we save F6. Invalid for array file name. Oh right, yeah, because this thing kept on triggering because it's looking at other stuff. Interesting. You're getting an empty array. Oh yeah, because the last one would be these. They didn't trigger. And numbers are changing. Shit's working. Nice. Hello there, Bärenstarker der Zweite. Hope you're doing well, my friend. And I think the invalid log is just going to add noise since you're going to call it multiple times for specific IDs. Yes, Elliptus, you're absolutely correct, as we see right here. Which makes me happy. Oh, wrong one. From here. There we go. F16 again. Now no one should be printing anything unless there's an error. Fantastic. I'm just happy that shit works, because now we can keep on calling in to load into array. Target string, target file ID, target array. And if we keep on doing this and also using a lot of these being constant values, we can then change the values here, and then later on all that flowing logic can keep flowing. It's always nice to delete code. It is, isn't it? Now we could then have a loop through folders. We can turn this into an even smaller one, but I don't think I want that. I think it'll be better to have using the same one multiple times here, because we don't need you anymore. We can reuse that for pretty much everything. And while we could have a logic that then cycles, first looks at, hey, how many folders do we have inside of that resource folder? Check inside one of them one at a time and do the thing. I think currently it'll be better if we just use, instead of just keep on calling load into array separately with all these different names, again for visual clarity of what exactly we're doing. Because if we have an infinitely just thing that loops, then we'll have a logic for it. Well, okay, yeah, we'll have to have a logic for it, identifying when to use this and when to use that, which will add its own unnecessary steps, really, to be honest. So we can just delete all that too. And here instead we'll just, because all of these can then be probably moved from loading resources into ready, but I think we'll rather have this thing be its own folder, own function, because then we can have multiple functions for, again, visual clarity and logical separation of what exactly they're doing. So we can have loading resources actually change back into loading the runes, and have a separate one that keeps on you also using loading to array again, but then it's like deals with the circles and so on. Because that way we can then have a nice, neat logical separation. Loading to array is a remarkable example of when things go right. See, it is a function, it does one thing, it loads the resources into an array. What kind of resources? What array? It doesn't give a shit. It just loads them in there. Perfect. I'm really happy with that one. Rarely do I succeed this well. But slowly and surely we're getting there. We are learning things. Holy shit. I'm happy with that one. Yeah, so next would be then we need to figure out how to fill out the circle array, which means first we need to create those circle resources. So we can start by making a folder here, and we shall call you circle resources for now. Keep on going from a for now to for now, but this one is just sometimes you get stuff like just right, and here it worked out. Nice. We can even have I can leave the found directory thing here, because then if it pops up, I'll be confused, but then at least, because it also will have, at this point, thanks to this one, its absolute path to the file. So we can then find, like, what the hell? Why is there a folder here? And we can, deal with it if we need to. And we need to, in order to make the UI system we want, because that shit works. Next would be then we need to turn our circle base, which is meant to be just your base class for the logic for building magic circles, and similar to how we have the rune base, and then extended from that we have our projection and filtration and power runes. So this is supposed to only be the base for all future magical circles. So this will be the next thing to design. I guess I could. Okay, and see, here's a problem, because we have an array for rune base, so we can contain any rune inside this array, because that is the sort of like parent class that the others inherit. But now we need to come up with the logic for making sure that it remains within bounds. So once we create different kinds of magical runes for the in-game as resources, we can then determine, does it have 3 nodes, 5 nodes, and then we kind of have to think about how do we determine how those are linked, because that is the next big sort of design problem here. Right now they're in a row. This makes me want to start my own coding project so I can exercise a level of control I can't at work. That is very true. That is always nice when you're a solo dev. You know, you can do whatever you want. You have full control, but also you then have to do all the work and carry all the responsibility. You know, pros and cons. The thing is, because my first language was C, so I keep on thinking in my brain, like, I want to do linked lists. Because the array won't work. The array only works if we jump back to create layer. And we make a new layer in the wrong fucking place, apparently. Close the old one. Alright, we're gonna probably... Whoop. Where'd he go? Too close. There it is. Grab the old Wacom pad. It is, yes, a properly old one. The bamboo. But it works. So, right now, because we're trying to build like runic circles, use these runes to build your spell attack in the game. And the idea is to then, because I want it to be like a crafting system based on just making your most basic attack, which could then also potentially become increasingly complicated. So if we have your basic circle with 3 nodes, we would be visually represented, because it's a circle, so like this. We can do this in an array because it has a beginning, it has an end, it goes in a straight line. But the idea is once we have multiples, I would like to figure out a way for, adding more like classic magical symbology, and through that more interesting cause and effect. I'm not sure how all that would work, but I want to have that be possible at this point in the design rather than having to then backtrack and re-engineer all this. That's why I was thinking linked lists, because a linked list can have multiple, paths. What's the next one? That is completely doable in a linked list. The problem is there's so many like data just structures that I'm not fully aware of. So I'm wondering, like, do I have to make a rune container be its own object? Right now, yeah, they're just nodes in an array, but if it were its own object and it could know what is its, where do you link to? What is the way forward? A quadruple linked list? Yeah? You can make all kinds of multi-dimensional bullshit with linked lists. I mean, this would actually only be, a 3-way as a linked list, because instead of a tree, though, it'll be just a really fucked up tree. But essentially, they all have just, okay, yeah, they have four connections. But yeah, it's doable. Because we're not building like giant data structures. We don't have to worry about it becoming like too much of a mess. Because I'm not gonna make, a magic circle with like 100 nodes. That's just not gonna happen. We'll stay within a reasonable amount, but the player should also be able to open and close these connections. Because I'm thinking I don't want to, because otherwise if all of these have to and will automatically connect, well, that's gonna cause a little bit of trouble. And of course, every single one of these should be one way. So in that way, they have, see, let's say this node has one input from here, and then it has a, output. So there's a direction always. So there's the limitation. It isn't infinite. So our very first one has 1, 2, like multiple outputs. Oh, that is very true. Technically, they would all have multiple inputs. So this one would have like three inputs, 1 output. This one has 1 input, 3 outputs. This one has 2 inputs, 2 outputs. Because, there's some higher, or maybe we could allow the player to, change the direction. So you have your core flow, which you can't change, but then like these subflows maybe. No, because then you have infinite loops. Thank you, Darth27 Vader, for that follow. I really do appreciate it. And hope you have a wonderful day, friend. And what about the circle? It has slots for runes and links. You activate slots, make transition along links, activate new slots, repeat with recursion. Yeah, Sankira, that's sort of what I'm thinking about here. And it's saying a number of runes and the number of connections per node need to be unlocked through progression. Yes, Elliptus. Yes. Yeah. That's why I'm thinking the runes, the circles will be then designed, on my end here. You can't just completely build your own circle. You assemble your magic in the circle. Because or maybe you can. We'll find out when we get there. But for now, I'm gonna design the runes, and I will design the circles, and then it's up to the player how to combine those to make magic happen. And the whole repeat with recursion, Sakira, yeah, that is exactly the point. But yeah, we want to make sure you can't do an infinite loop, or then the game will allow you to detect, okay, yo, this shit won't work because that thing's looping infinitely. You have a shortcut. Not a shortcut, a short fuse. Logic shorted. So how do we then make this, in-game logic? So, like I was saying, either the containers are their own objects which care about who they are connected to, and then just send it out. But that won't work. No. Because our current logic is super simple. We just go through the array. We have our spell states, we give it to this guy, then, he does something, we get it back, and then we give it to this guy, he does something, and we get it back, and it's sent to this guy, he does something, we get it back, and then, oh no, we've gone through everything, because this one, and then what do we have left? If we created an attack, we save that in its attack variable, and then whatever waste magic we've created, we use that to deduce our cooldown. I like the idea that the player has to manage stability and avoid runaway feedback loops. Yeah, thank you, Elliptus. Yeah, because it is sort of like a very sort of modern technical approach, I guess, to magic, which is what I want to play around with here. Sankira saying, if you worry about loops, just track mana and if it reaches 0, break spell. Yeah, that kind of stuff will be working here. But we don't have mana per se. Well, we have the input of magic, the elemental, the array, the circle does its thing. Once it's done, we'll see how do we have a functional attack, and whatever waste heat magic we've created will be used to deduce the efficiency of the system, so ergo the cooldown. Thank you, Rigdev, for that follow. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a wonderful day as well. But yeah, the current system, we just loop you through the array one by one. The theory works, but add complexity into the system, we can't do that. We need more connections, more influences. So, rune logic has been figured out. Wonderful. We can expand on it. It works as is. Now, I'm realizing, the next big design problem will be figuring out the circle. How do we add that complexity? Because if nothing else, I want if you get access to, say, a circle like this, multiple connections, but you don't have to use all of them, so you can turn them on or off. Is this connection happening? Yes, no. For example, you have something's happening here and here, and then goes here. Do you want this one also to do this? Get the sort of raw energy from point 1, but maybe you don't, so you stop that connection. Maybe you even stop this connection, and then so you have, power goes to filter, goes to projection. Power goes from here to filter, goes to projection. And now you have 2 bolts creating projections, so now your will calculate what kind of attack is that. You have 1 fireball and 1, say, water element. So what is that? We'll combine those in a sort of elemental logic system, and he ends up saying, now you're launching magical steam attack, and it has some effect at the end. Because that's also what I want to be part of the logic here, is the elemental systems and their interactions. So the circle itself will be then, we'll have to figure out how will it be maintaining this logic regardless of how many nodes it has, because this needs to be the base class, the very core of it. We can then make more subclass forms for very specific things we want only this kind of circle to do. Like for example, this one is designed to only create shields. This one's only created for purely offense or something. This one's actually a summoning circle, that kind of stuff. So it'll do slightly different things with similar nodes, depending what is the sort of core design. And we might want to have variables for what if the circles are also not equal. What if you build it? So to create one of these, you then have to use raw materials, and some raw materials have better conductivity than others. Some of them can handle more of the heat waste, so that you get a beneficial multiplier for eventual cooldown, or just in general they have better waste, like heat dissipation, that kind of stuff. Maybe there's a risk for burning one out if we have an overheating problem, and if you push it too far, you might break your magic circle, like mid-run, that kind of stuff. Links to affect the spell too? Yeah, no, the links would be affecting the generation of the spell, and it will affect things that the circle does. Like for example, determining your cooldown. We might have the circle have durability, so you can burn it out, and because they'll be like a craftable. I would like them to be a craftable part of the game, and you can put more than one on a character when you or the mechanical robot you're kind of making here when you send it out on a run. So you can have your big attack, but it burns itself out. It's a single use one. You can build one of those, and then later on you find even better materials. You harvest those. There's progression, and then you can essentially build the exact same one with better materials, and now it's no longer a single use attack. Your Hail Mary has now turned into just a powerful punch. So that kind of is what I'm hoping to get to. So we'll have then, raw material will be a variable here for, will be affected by its raw material, but that is simple enough. That is just the variable we have, and affects the final math of, because whenever we calculate what our attack does, we look at it we run through the entire thing, and then we save into a variable what does the final attack do, and our final, so all the effects, because we don't want to do the math every time, but when you're creating it, doing it every time something changes in the circle, we'll calculate the current final attack form, and then whenever you do attacks, we only just check those values, because there's no point in doing all that math every time, as I figured out by doing it the wrong way around first time. So for that logic to work, we'll then have to have would these be aware of each other, or does the circle do all the logic? Because it could be easier if the node was its own data structure, and the circle just fills out its variables for, okay, you link to here, you link to here, you link to here, and then it remembers what kind of rune is inside it. And then depending on that, when the circle sends the spell state through this thing, and or copies thereof, okay, yeah, we don't actually have to send the freaking spell set back and forth at all, because I keep on forgetting this thing works through reference. So then if a multiple outputs from one, say, power source, then it'll create two copies of its power output, but halved, because all the power goes into one, or half goes here, kind of thing. If a rune has two outgoing links, does it split the energy, or does it alternate the paths? So yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm not sure, because that could be interesting. Could we add that as a mechanic then for the logic here? So certainly, circles would allow for that. So it switches between A and B states. Of course, then behind the scenes, the game just has saved attack A and attack B, and then it alternates between the two. But narratively, the circle is flicking between A and B here. So you can have multiple effects. So it'll more you'll end up with a freaking an attack array, rather than just one variable for this is the attack. But you have multiple ones, and then you cycle through them behind the scenes. But visually, we'll see. We might even like show every time you do an attack. Well, maybe can have this thing showing somewhere, and you see it like flickering between its states. And you can define filtering runes that decide that exactly that kind of stuff. And then because we want to add like more runes that add like pure modifiers, like oh, this will make your attack faster. This will make your attack, I don't know, split. So it already would then make whatever attack you're generating. This will actually make 2 copies of it, but they, like at a lower power kind of thing. And those could be different types of links that the player can choose. And yeah, exactly. I left this on the YouTube side there. Yeah, because that's what I'm thinking. Like I want to add an X amount of links or an X amount of nodes that the player might be able to turn on and off. And that's why we can't hard code which connection is already there. It's more like, yeah, we'll have to know which connection is allowed. So I'm thinking, yeah, so let's say, okay, what is a link? A link needs to know who is connected. So okay, let's see here. We have okay. A link is between A and B. So we need to know who is A, who is B, and then we'll need to know, is it open? Yes, no. And we would know if it has like a special type or something. Or if it's burnt out. States. Health, etc. In or out, yeah. Yeah, in or out. In, out. We need that kind of information, and that is like purely the links. And then what do we need to know in a node? Well, we need to know what kind of rune is inside, so we'll say just content. Yes or no. Then you'll need a list of links. And make object of slots and link and use pair of slots as key for oriented ed with link object as value. That way you can define and use variables to control circles freely. Yes, thank you. And then that's sort of what I'm realizing here, that I've been trying to go a bit uselessly like low tech on this thing. Keep forgetting, like, wait, I'm freaking coding, and these are like abstracted languages. I can make objects of everything. Yeah, because I'm wondering, because it's currently looking a bit like the link should be specifically its own like object. We can make its own. Yeah, we make a class link. That way we can just make more of those, less of those. It can have its own functions to determine what its state is. It can know variables for what's happening there. That's fine. The node is essentially there to contain a rune. Do you have anything in ya? Yes or no? Cool. What do you link to? There's the thing, and then it'll need a function. And then the rune itself would care about, activating rune. Rune does its thing. The node doesn't give a shit. But we can then have types of nodes, I guess. More like the links would be then caring about their states, like do they like alternate and so on. The node would be the one more controlling that, more than the link. The link is just there. Maintain that information. So the node would have type information, and then functions for controlling which links are open or closed. If the substrate is going to impact power transfer, it'll need to be able to modify the links. Yeah. Exactly, that's why I put that under type there. And we'll just add here, yeah. Functions for editing. Editing those links. Okay, and this will also be better because then, depending on the state of the link, we can use that to also determine how it is being visually animated. So, okay, that is actually, that is, I keep on trying to emphasize this so that I would remember it, yes, but you need more variables than you think because you need data for the animations and visuals, not just the raw math happening. So in that sense, yes, it'll also be better because then we can get the link. If it's open, it'll glow. If it's off, we know it's not to glow. And if it has a clear direction, we can have a sort of boom effect from where to where is in, where is out, like direction, state. Yeah, okay, perfect. Node, same thing, because then the node knows is there a rune in here? Yes, no. If there is, then okay, glow. If there's nothing in here, be dull. That kind of stuff. Then if you have different types of runes, then depending on that, or a node, that'll affect how it's being animated. Okay, yeah. Sparks if it's burning out. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Exactly. I'm writing bits by mouse. No. I wish I was this skilled with a mouse, but no, I have a Wacom tab. An old bamboo one. Nice black one. You can't see what you're doing on there, so I'm still, that's why it might look like I'm using a mouse. It's not those modern things that are just essentially a freaking tablet. Because I'm trying to get more used to using this, because I would like to get better at digital art as well. And I got an old Wacom pad from my brother. So this will help with all of that, but they also then we'll need to then figure out the whole how is the attack generated logic. Because the current logic is built to be using that simplistic system with the array. And if you have a bidirectional link, does node output to link that activation signal come from? I don't think we can have any bidirectional links. Yeah, no, I think they'll always have to have a direction, like in or out. So like where is in, which one is out. So direction information. Maybe we can make that slightly clearer here with in and out. That's like I want to call that one just direction. Because the bidirectional link wouldn't make sense at this point. And who knows, because again, the wonders of modular buildings, if we do it this way, maybe we can figure out a way to make those bidirectional in the future, and this system would allow us to retain what we have without breaking shit and still add more functionality. Because what I had currently with all the hard-coded shit, we're just going like one by one in an array, that's kind of limiting. So this is making more sense in like what the things are and what kind of things we might need. Oh, and yeah, we'll just add into both here. I'll just do it here, like both need variables or animation. So we'll just keep that in mind as we design it. You might want oscillation, and you can technically make this kind of loop with 3 nodes. Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're getting at here. I guess that's something, we'll see as the logic of the machine grows. Because I was thinking it goes through the entire loop once. And if it has successfully looped the entire thing, that means that is the magic. That is the attack. For an oscillating thing, that means we have ongoing effects. And I don't want the math to be happening at every tick kind of thing. I want it to do the full math of the circle only when necessary to generate what is the current attack or list of attacks, and then not do that math again, because that would, even in a simple game, get very resource heavy eventually. Math is, heavy, and we don't want to do that. We want to just do the math only when we need to. There are certain things that would affect it, and we might have to do the math again, but we'll see when we get there. We have like environmental effects which might be affecting how certain rooms work, kind of thing. Traveling salesman, fun. Yeah, mine goes. Yeah, actually, yes, that is it. The traveling salesman fun is what we're looking at here. So you want to check if node was visited. Yeah, kind of thing. But that'll be then handy, because then we have link and node, and they all have, because whenever we then check our circle state, essentially currently, we sort of reset all our values, and then we run through the entire thing. And every time something goes through a node, it gets changed, and we just have a flag for has been visited. And then if it tries to enter the same one again somehow, then, you know, we record that one to say no, or we just flip a flag inside itself, so the animation and visualization for the player can tell you, like, okay, you turn the thing red, like, nope, this ain't gonna work. Because yeah, currently we only have your power source, filtration, projection, but yeah, like I keep on saying, I want to be able to add more variability and complexity. I'm just happy the rune systems are now at their core, the most basic ones are working, which means, well, nothing else, proof of concept. But this is the next big one. How do we build this? Because now the circle would then contain links and nodes. The nodes need to know where they start from. So we'll need a variable inside the circle for starting pointer to starting node. So we need, yeah. So we're gonna point to the starting node. Now the node has a list of its links. And the circle also has those. The circle contains every link in every node, because we need to have an easy access to all that information without delving too deep, for just also visualization and ease of access. The links and nodes then know of each other. The link only cares about between which two nodes it exists. The node only cares about, does it have contents? Does it have links? And then, you know, types and then functions for editing those links. So it turns those links on and off. No. The link closes off. Because, yeah, I want the player to be able to click on a line, and it'll turn off that line, which means it is the link that turns itself on or off or changes direction. And when it does that, it informs the two nodes of its current state, and then the two nodes know what's happening. Or whenever the node is trying to use that link, it asks, like, you open? No? Okay, cool. Then I won't interact with you. Okay. And Sankira saying, it would be fun if you actually allows this behavior, since links accumulate heat as spell pass through them. You can overheat the circle and burn it. Yeah, Sankira. Exactly, the burnout. I want that to be a feature, because the idea is, like, okay, currently we're testing, we have the one polygon dude I drew, and he's being a wizard. The idea is that eventually we'll have an actual, because I wanted a narrative explanation for why you can keep playing even if you die. So I'm thinking, okay, so you're not a wizard. You are a wizard building magical machines, and you're sending them off to the frigging multiverse elemental planes to harvest materials. Harvest the locals for their parts. So in that way, you also then collect your materials. Maybe there's traders involved. You can buy, sell, that kind of shit. So we'll have some kind of base level where you do your non-combat shits, your off-duty stuff, and then but the main core combat loop where you use your spells, well, you'll be crafting your mech. So that way we'll have the substrate of the circle itself, and maybe even then the mech itself. So you'll end up having a robot. You know, we'll just do a simple, I don't know. See, there's a fancy fucking robot that is. We'll give it a proper, like, robot mouth there. Pop, 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 pop. Hey, see, magic robot. Fucking perfect. It's got a Nintendo. So then you send your magic robot, and for that one, but then we have different robots, you know, designs, components, so you can have a faster movement speed, maybe durability, and also how much power can flow through this thing without burning this entire thing out. So you'll have a limited amount of, like, so you can have one spell on one arm, and then once you get more complex materials, complex spells, then you can add like so you have a shield spell and two different attack spells kind of thing. And then you design these more interesting spells for interesting effects. So that way you can then have a sacrificial circle that has, it'll burn out. You can do with one single powerful attack and then it burns out. So you have like one Hail Mary Mega Punch, and like I said then earlier, and then if you find better materials later on, you can then rebuild the same one but with more durable magical materials, which means it is now not a one, now it is just a strong attack. And this concept is inspiring a lot of ideas, but trying to figure out how to code it is hurting my head. Yeah, Liptus, I know the feeling. That's because this thing has been haunting me for years now. And I decided, no, it has to happen. I'm using like Brotato Vampire Survivors like combat loops to be essentially just the platform for the magic combat. The one thing I really want to do is figure out a runic magic crafting system. And the fun thing is, if I get this to work, I have other ideas. Well, you can use this in freaking like a town happy crafting game. You can make your Stardew Valley, but you're a wizard and you try to make magical lamps for people, that kind of shit, You don't have to have combat, but combat is an interesting thing to try to like make fun. So that's a fun challenge. But the core idea here is something I can translate to multiple kinds of games, if I get the logic to work. No, it's not a touchback. And that way, you'll have multiple, multiple components, and then after each run, you have to spend some resources to fix your robot, or if it's completely, if it dies, it's gone, lost. And then you might even add some components like a magical pocket because you collect your inventory, you might even have a limited inventory. So it's a proper like extraction shooter vibe there. But you have like one like inventory slot that is magically linked to where you came from, and it'll like you can build it so that it'll passively but constantly keep sending stuff back. So even if you lose your run, at least some of those things have been sent back, and that kind of shit. And Mindcode is saying, I feel that. I'd love to code something like a 2D orbital combat sim, but learning how to program orbital motion means a lot of math I don't know. Even in 2D. Well, the good thing about orbital math in 2D is that it's a solved problem and you don't have to figure out the math. That's a good part about mathematics. Like, there's a lot of math that I don't need to... I know the math exists. I can find like, hey, how do I do orbitals? Oh, you do this freaking magic equation. Cool, copy paste, there you go. So you don't always have to figure out orbital mechanics. In order to use orbital mechanics, you can use pre-existing mathematics for that. The interesting thing for you to code is how do you make all these like bits and pieces fit together. And that's the amazing part. You don't have to be good at math to do coding, because you're in fact coding on a computer, and computers are known to be rather good at math. So you don't have to know it. The computer does the work. And yeah, I'm gonna do this, and then maybe as you progress, maybe you have your freaking magical portal, you send it through. Maybe that's his own like magic circle that you have to then, as the game progresses, you have to get better resources to make more magic, so you can get deeper into the freaking elemental planes to collect whatever, fire crystals. Because this is Loop was what it originally started with, and then I started thinking with the robot, and then I had suggestions from chat like, hey add some NPCs, maybe some base building, and then I realized actually, yeah, why not? We'll add so we start with this, and then after that we'll look at adding in between runs, maybe you do have a base, and you have to then get upgrades. Then there's traders. You are actually a straight up just freaking wizard building, your own wizard house. Maybe in between here, and you're sending shit out to harvest some stuff, then you can sell some in the marketplace and use those to trade for other materials. So there is a lot of complexity you can add that one. An underrated skill is how to read the manual. That's very true, Elliptus. Very true. Documentation. It's surprisingly useful, and it is also a lesson I have to learn time and time again. Read the fucking manual. It helps. Now, orbital mechanics are actually easy. You have no drag or friction, only thrusters, force vectors, and gravity, and it is simple equation for that. Well, everything is simple once you know how to do it. That's what I was saying about you don't need to know the math. It is a solved equation. Oh. But yeah, that's pretty much, you do pop, 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 pop. And that's why the more malleable and modular I can make the core of the runic circle, like logic, the more aspects I can like shove it into in the game. We're doing now just attacks. Eventually, I then want to figure out, okay, how do I turn this into, you know, making a shield? How do I make, I don't know, you can summon something, like summon goblins. How do you have a rune of goblin or something, you know? We'll figure it out when we get there, but I think it's just fascinating, the idea here. And engineers don't come up with equations, they just know where here to apply them. Very true, Elliptus, yeah. Thank God for mathematicians. You know, yes, there's a big difference between like theoretical and applied mathematics. But you know, the applied mathematics wouldn't exist without the theory. Thank you, mathematicians of the world. Okay. Oh, we're past 3 hours already. Okay. But I think this okay, now we have a blueprint for tomorrow. Because the game dev is designed to be around 2 hours. And we got the loading system done, because that was the big challenge for today, because I've never done anything like that in Godot, so I'm glad I got that to work, and that means I can now start creating the resources. And yeah, the next step would be creating the circle resource, and then that led me to stumble into the fact that I have no idea how to make this actually work. Because here I can see I can make the links, I can make the nodes, but I feel like I have a blank spot in my logic here but how does this turn into a spell? Because the array had the good part of it always has a 0.0 where it begins. So in this one, we'd have to, I guess, when building it, declare this is where it starts from. Or do we allow the player to do that one? And that's why I'm thinking, okay, so I'll point here to a start node. And we'll build this kind of like inspired by linked lists, in the sense that in order to build this, we'll have just an X amount of links, X amount of things. And the node doesn't care. It has just a list of links, how many it has its type, and it does its thing, ignoring whatever happens here. We'll have to have a function that goes through its list of links and asks what is their state. Are you an in or out? We'll have probably a variable inside it where it just remembers what is the input or something. Or does it even care? Does it even care where its input is? Because if it then gets a request like through a link, well, it comes from somewhere. It doesn't really care. It got to it, so it must be acceptable. What is start nude? Asks Sankira, and I don't know. Ah! Pointer to start node. Pointer to start nude. Because this is, well, I mean, start nude. That's how we all start the game, isn't it? The game of life. We all pop out of our mothers some way naked. In fact, yes, the starting equipment on this game is kind of bullshit. It's nothing. Start out with a debuff. Infancy. Can't do nothing. Making pointless. Now. Well, I was thinking about the fact that I need to make a proper like spell state variable anyway, or a freaking logic structure. So we'll probably have to turn that entire thing, because it currently is just a dictionary with 3 elemental power like resources inside. So if we turn that into an actual class object, then we can always do like just, you know, spell state.new, creates a new one, and then let it flow through the system and allows itself to be copied. We'll probably do a function of like half yourself, or like, you know, duplicate. No, we can't call it duplicate because there's an existing thing. Sorry, I'm terribly bored at work. No worries, Sankira. I appreciate it. You're not the first one to have commented that my A's and O's and U's end up looking very similar. But if we look at this thing, yeah, I think pointer to start node. So in other words, it's the variable that remembers this is the start node. So that way we can, if we want to change which one it is, I don't know if we want to give the player that option or not. But it'll also then allow us to then visually just organize whatever, and someone decides this is where you start from. Then we flow through the entire thing. Then we're gonna need a new class object for the spell states, because we've been sending a dictionary around, and well, that has all kinds of potential issues, and it'll be easier if we send in a class object for like spell state, which is what I'm using to then make a clean one. We send it through the circle, and if we get a successful completion, then from that spell state we determine what are the attacks and what is our cooldown. And I would keep nodes and links separate, not having a list of links in a nodes and nodes in a link to keep data and structure separate. But they need to not really care about what's happening. So, because a link needs to know, of course, what is it linked to? Is it, between A and B? That's what's the morning button. And then if a node does its thing to the, you see, we create a new spell state. So we need a new, new class. Because that is the name of the dictionary we've been using so far. And I want to be able to add more complex information here, so making that its own class object is a-okay, because then it can also determine have we added new effects like a blowback, or it freezes enemies, or a shock or something. So the spell state then has that, carries all that information. So we create a new one, new blank spell state. SS. There we go. SS is sent in to the start node. Then it traverses through the entire thing until we're happy everything has been dealt with. And then we'll look at what do we have. We might have multiples, then we'll have a way to figure out a way to connect them. Because if we need to duplicate the spell state, if we have multiple outputs. So either there's a handler who then keeps on putting it into things, or these keep on feeding it into each other. Wait, no, everything happens to reference. We don't need to feed it to each other. Keep on forgetting that one. And are the default spell instances going to be stored in separate arrays like default and combined? Well, Tourmalines, I don't know yet. Are you trying to combine fire plus water to create steam? Yes, Tourmalines. That is essentially pretty much, what's going to happen. Because I want elemental interactions to be a part of the design, for good and bad. And that's why I was thinking, so if we make a spell state, we give it to the first one, it sends this guy to the next one. So, but this one has two outputs, and it's gonna so then we need to make a copy of the spell state with only half of its power. So its power gets halved, so 50% goes here, 50% goes here. So then we'll have to have an array of spell states, where this one adds a new spell state to that array, sends that one that way, this one goes this way. Because I keep on thinking I need to give this variable in here and then send it from here to here, but I keep on forgetting, no, everything's happening through freaking a reference. Yeah, it's not C, this is more advanced. So we can keep on changing which one we're looking at, but the problem is, how does this one know which one we're looking at, this one or that one? So essentially we're sending a pointer to this one here. This one might create a new one, and then it sends up the pointer to the first one here, pointer to the second one here. And then these they make changes into the spell state through the pointer and send it to the next one. For example, and then these both would have an output into this node. So now this one gets two spell states. So what does it do? Do they both get edited? No, because they're both arriving essentially at the same time. And it would be, say, a fire and a water, and that is a node that can handle that Well, yeah, because he would just need to be a room that can handle it. Your link is object modifying data flowing through it. It's a node graph in theory. If you think about it like that, you can see that nodes define functionality and links structure. You have this mixed. Thank you, Sankira. I'm gonna have to then look into more node graph theory. As you can see, I'm mostly self-taught. There's a lot of this whole graph theory that I barely know about. But I'm vaguely aware of that, and now that you said that, I feel a little silly. I'm reinventing the wheel, aren't I? And I'm doing it ass backwards. Hate it when that happens. Okay, so I'm gonna have to have myself a little bit of thinking poo and look into node graph theory. Because there's no reason for me again to let's just like with the math to reinvent the wheel. The link and node do need their own information, but that's, like I said, a lot of that is for animation purposes and state recollection. But if we want a link and node thing, geez, it is a graph. Thanks, Ankara. That actually did help, because I'm vaguely aware of that kind of stuff. So now I know, like, wait, I'm trying, yeah, now I know I'm trying to, like, fix a solved problem. That will help me. I know what I'm doing tonight. I'm watching YouTube videos on graph theory and reading stuff. But, my friends, right now, I'm gonna have to take a tiny break. I desperately need to go to the toilet. I've been meaning to go there for quite a while now, but I got so engrossed in this project. So I'm gonna go to the loo, and when I come back, I think it is finally time for dwarfing some forts, because that's sort of what I said I'd do for the gaming side for today. But we'll make that choice when I get back. Right now, off to the loo. See you soon, friends. And hello again. Found it away, and yeah, so I'm gonna have to look into graph theory, and then next week, no, not next week, but tomorrow, then if nothing else, if I don't get all that sorted out, at least we'll build the new spell state class and the links in the nodes, and then we'll figure out graph theory slowly but surely. But for now, I'm gonna have to change category. First up here. Save. All the things. Come on now. God damn it. That heckin' Steam getting in the way. Keeps on stealing my cursor. So Dwarf Fortress. Dwarf Fortress. Wow, what's a good title here? I don't know, Dwarf Fortress building shit. Oh, apparently we're gonna have ads soon. Well, it's okay. Well, the ads happen, we'll do the whole reset thing. So, Dwarf Fortress. Working like a dwarf. Yeah, enough. Done. And we copy that. Then we go. Twitch has Steam. What it called now? Freaking. Yeah. So okay. So on the Twitch side, I am no, not Twitch. I mean, on the YouTube side, I'm gonna have to stop the stream and start again because we can't change categories mid-stream thanks to the way YouTube works. So I'm gonna switch on over and end the stream, and then I will very quickly try to get it back on again under the new category. And for that, we're gonna switch over to this one for a little while, and there we go.